There we go. My name is Rabbi Dan Slipakoff. The session that I've cooked up for us this morning is called How Football Explains Israel. To clarify before we go any deeper, that is football as in soccer. If you have come to see how the NFL plans to stretch into the Holy Land, you might be a little disappointed, but nonetheless fascinated. I've got a slide presentation that's going to help us walk through this. So if you'll oblige me for 1 second, I'll get that up and then we'll get going here. Um, Here I will be sharing sound. Wonderful. Excuse me. To share my audio, I need to. Okay. Um, Sorry, everyone. One moment. I hope to share some audio with you, but I've got a challenge coming on. Restart my audio sharing application. This is what everyone came to see. Um, hmm.
It's a pain to
Okay.
share audio on Zoom.
But this is a new setup for me. So it is asking me to download some new driver of sorts. Who would have thought? But let's see if I can trick it. While we're going, while I'm figuring this out as quickly as possible, I'm curious. You can put it in the chat. This is a class that's going to be a little bit about football, a little bit about Israel. So just to get an idea of where people are coming from, if you've got, a basic working knowledge of the sport, a basic working knowledge of the state, favorite clubs, favorite places in Israel, you can let me know. Um, and put that in the chat, and we'll see if we've got any common ground to tread on to begin. Let's see if I can figure this out. Hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, we're gonna see if someone. Okay, well, friends, this might be less than the big inning. Um, okay, we're gonna do a little twist right now. I've got some backup coming off the bench. Amy, I am gonna send you my slides. If you're able, you can screen share for me. Um, Give me 1 second, everybody. A little tech difficulty, but we are going to circumnavigate it right now. All right. Amy, I just sent you my slides. If you're able, yes, I will make you co-host. We'll get going this way. Thank you. Thank you. Alt. Ah. Okay. Yeah. Um, so the idea for this class, as we're gonna get this going in just a moment, it comes from a book by Franklin Foer called How Football Explains the World. Franklin Foer recognized that the world's most popular game might teach us a little something about how our world works, and traveled the world looking at globalization, looking at politics, looking at economics, looking at all these things through the lens of the sport. When I was a rabbinic student in Israel for my first year, I had to write a paper that was about creating a tour around the country. And I kind of used this as my framework to better understand some elements of the country. I don't claim that we are going to, understand all of the land of Israel in just these few minutes, but it'll give us a taste. Um, and so we will go through a little bit about the founding of the state, through the founding of some clubs, a little bit through some modern issues. And as I went through this, I realized it's, like the state itself, like the game itself, it is complicated. It brings out the best and the worst of us at times. But we are going to see where we go. All right. Thank you so much, Amy. And then let's go to the next slide, please. As I just said, I didn't come up with this idea, but I think it's a very good idea. So let's go forward another one. So the concept of this, as I explained, we're going to try to understand some complex national identity and social dynamics. We're going to understand that Israel is a passionate place, football is a passionate sport, and on-field drama sometimes mirrors the broader society. Okay, let's go to the next one. Looking at that again, you have another chance to explain a little bit about you and what you're bringing to the table. Um, and from there, let's move forward. And let's get started with this lovely gentleman. This is Dr. Max Nordau. Dr. Max Nordau is a co-founder of the World Zionist Congress. You probably think of Herzl when you think of the World Zionist Congress. Max Nordau was there as well. He created this idea called muscular Judaism, which I'm sorry that Friedhelm just left. It sounds better in the German, Muskeljudentum. Muskeljudentum, the idea that the Jewish people needed to be strong of body as well as strong of spirit. If you've seen any of the old Zionist posters of the strapping individuals, sometimes shirtless, golden in the sun, this was the idea that Nordau had when they were trying to find the state of Israel. This quote that he delivered to the World Zionist Congress is, "We forgot to exercise and stand up straight." He's talking about Jews of Europe and this moment. "We forgot how to exercise and stand up straight. We shall renew our youth. We shall develop a wide chest, strong limbs, and a courageous look. Let Hebrew sport clubs grow and flourish." So here's Dr. Nordau, and below him is the Herzliya Hebrew Gymnasium in Tel Aviv, founded in 1909. If you think 1909, this is a humongous building to be in 1909. This is a cornerstone of the early settlement of Israel, of Tel Aviv, pre-state. The early Zionists saw Tel Aviv as a new Paris, a shining bastion of culture, where they could live a very European lifestyle, and of course to flee a lot of the stuff that they were trying to escape from Europe, but to get that sport as a key component of what they were looking for. The building is still, there's pieces of the building still there. There's been built on top of it. It's now a large skyscraper in downtown Tel Aviv. Um, but I think you can still see, like, that ground floor has its elements still there. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to look at some of the clubs. As we talk about the founding. Now, one of the things that is true here, as it is in a lot of different places where they play organized soccer, is that the early clubs are tied to political affiliations, to different movements. So in Israel, we have what's called the Big Four. Those are the four major clubs. They are Hapoel Tel Aviv, Beitar, and Maccabi Tel Aviv and Maccabi Haifa. So let's take a look at these guys for just a moment. Starting with Hapoel on the left, that placement is politically intentional. Hapoel is historically progressive. They are the Histadrut Labor Party. Hapoel, Poalim, if you know Hebrew, is verb. It's action, it's doing, it's work. If you look at the picture there at the left in the red, tell me what you see in that logo, if you're up for it.
It's like
Can anyone
it's not
ID
like a
some
working
shapes next?
man, like
Hammer,
labor.
sickle.
Yes, hammer and sickle.
Oh yeah.
Ha-Patish Ha-Magal Ha-International. This is the socialist, the hammer and sickle crew, absolutely. And there's more than one Hapoel. There's a lot of Hapoels dotted across the country, and they all have this as a part of their logo. So this is that giveaway of what the group is all about. And yes, there's a muscular Jew right there in the middle as well for them. I'm going to jump over Maccabi for a second and go over to the right. Again, politically intentional. This is Beitar. Beitar is the yellow and black. They get their name after Brit Yosef Trumpeldor. Now, Joseph Trumpeldor was a Jewish settler who was in a battle at Tel Hai in 1920 and fell there. He was notably had one arm, which might have been an advantage on the soccer pitch, but he led his people in defense nonetheless. And he was reportedly saying, as he was trying to fight off warring Arab neighbors, never mind, this is a good day to die for country. So what the Beitar was picked up by Jabotinsky, Zev Jabotinsky, whose Zionism preached to him that Israel, that the Jews should control both sides of the Jordan. This is aggressive, expansive Judaism. The Beitar is also closely tied to the conservative Likud party, and the Mizrahi periphery, the Mizrahi community of folks who come from the Middle East, from North Africa, from the area, who have not always had leadership space in Israeli politics, who have seen themselves not just periphery as in not Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, but also, not having that much leadership. The stars, now I wasn't positive on this because usually when you see stars like that, it is titles. But I'm pretty sure Maccabi Tel Aviv and or Maccabi Haifa and Hapoel Tel Aviv have more than 2 and 3 cups to their name. So I meant to get an answer to that, but I'm not quite sure. But usually when you see stars over a team, it's victories, it's titles. So from Beitar to this day remains perhaps one of the more controversial clubs in the country. They have a low graded human rights mark. The New Israel Fund for years was actually sending people to matches across the country and every week producing kind of a scorecard of how people were behaving. And Beitar was constantly receiving low marks. To this day, I believe they are the only club who has never signed an Arab player as a matter of principle, not as a coincidence. There's been opportunity, it's been turned down. The ownership throughout the years have said, we tried, but our fans just won't let us. Um, did not bring clips of it, but there's a phenomenal uh, ESPN documentary by Jeremy Schaap that is follows Beitar. It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch, and it's a hard reality that this is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the only piece, though. Right in the middle there, we have Maccabi. So also these teams are, as you can see, Hapoel Tel Aviv 1923, Beitar is right around the same time. Maccabi Tel Aviv is 1903, and I think Maccabi Haifa is 1913. These are when these teams are starting to come up. And we have them, they're central and they're metropolitan. And I had this quote about Maccabi in the middle. I'll read to you. Maccabi traditionally falls somewhere in the middle as far as politics are concerned. But you have to understand that as the politics of Israel changes, so do the politics of the ultras, the major supporting fans. They are organized young men, many of whom have been in the Israeli Defense Forces because and they what they say and chant tracks where the country is. What they say and chant tracks where the country is. And so as a result, there is a much stronger ultra nationalist element within the Maccabi fan base today. This isn't something about the club per se, but it is a way to track how Israel is changing. Um, so Beitar's supporters you could consider hooligans. As we're going to see in a moment, you could consider hooligans in other clubs as well. But we use that term hooligans when we're talking about kind of the most rabid and sometimes violent fans. This is not unique to our Israeli teams. If you look across Europe, you see plenty examples of hooliganism. But certainly has also found its way to Eretz Yisrael. So we're going to keep an eye, just tuck that away about Maccabi, because it'll come up a little bit later. So we have these clubs, and you can see. So when you are trying to pick a team to support, you have a couple ways to go about it. You could pick a club based on geography. If you're in Jerusalem, you could find yourself rooting for Beitar. You could find yourself rooting for Hapoel Yerushalayim, which in the early 2000s split. Hapoel Yerushalayim also spawned Hapoel Kataman, which is a smaller neighborhood, and became the first fan-owned team when they were disappointed with the leadership of the club. So you could go political affiliation. You could also go geography or a combination of both. So what we're going to look at next is a major milestone match. That's going to tell us a bit of a story. This is called the Shoelace match from 1998. You can see those little notes there, but I'm going to also read a little bit from author Tamir Sorek. The question or his article is titled, "Why Did Beit Sha'an Let Beitar Win?" So we had a quote to start us off. "I have watched soccer for 25 years, and I do not remember ever seeing such a bizarre, embarrassing, and shameful spectacle as the last 8 minutes of Kiryat Eliezer." Now, soccer announcers, historically a little hyperbolic, but you'll get to be the judge by the end of it. So we are in the late season of 1998. This is match day 29 of 30. And where we're focusing in is a match between Hapoel, remember, on the left, Beit Sha'an, which is a smaller town, development team, town team, and Beitar Yerushalayim. So late in the game, there are other matches going on here. And the things that are at stake at the start of this game is that Beit Sha'an is at risk of being relegated, which means they are on the low level of the table. If they end up in the last two places of the table, they are going to be bumped down to a lower competitive league. So they have that at stake. Beitar has a stake in the club in the league championship. If they win, they could win the title outright. But there are other matches going on that have something to say about that. So I'm going to read from Sorek for a moment here. 10 minutes before the end of the Beit Sha'an match, the Beersheva Yerushalayim game ended with a victory for Hapoel Yerushalayim. If you know soccer, all these matches started at the same time, but because of injury time and extra time and things like that, they did not end at the exact same time. So They have the result coming in from Beersheva versus Yerushalayim, a victory for Hapoel Yerushalayim. So the situation was now as follows. Beitar needed to be assured a clear victory over Beit Sha'an, not merely a tie, in order to clinch the championship. Whereas now Beit Sha'an's place within the Premier League, the top league, is secure regardless of whether it lost or won. As a result, word starts spreading regarding Beersheva's defeat, and you can sense it in the mood in the bleachers. As reported by R.L. Segal, a journalist and avowed fan of Beitar, during the second half, the fans of Beit Sha'an broke into a loud song. They were not chanting for their team, they were chanting for Beitar. From the second they heard that Beersheva's game was over, they suspended their local partnership and switched to the anthem Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim. Then, in the 86th minute of play, we play for 90 minutes, extra time following that. Then, in the 86th minute, the unexpected occurred. Almag Hazan, a young player on Beit Sha'an, scored his first goal in a professional match, kicking the ball 20 meters out to tie the game at 2-2. So this young kid scores his first ever goal, but as a result, has put Beitar's championship at risk. In theory, his fans should have been ecstatic. Yet, very few of them, the players come over to congratulate him. A Beitar defenseman comes over and says, "What are you doing? You're not going to go down. You're not going to be relegated." And from that moment until the end of the game, about 8 minutes, all Beitar was given no less than 12 opportunities to score a winning goal, which it finally did in the very last seconds of play. The match is known as the shoelace game, in part because Eitan Tayeb, a defender, was filmed in the act of tying his shoes during the corner kick that ended up being turned into the game-winning goal. He had also been photographed tying his shoes 4 minutes earlier. So, what are we? And you, as we can see here, what happened is, club affiliation has gone out the window, and the question asks, why has Beit Sha'an let Beitar win? We can see down here, it's ethnic solidarity. Beit Sha'an is also a Mizrahi team, and they are turning to Big Brother Beitar, who they could see as a chance of getting the championship over Hapoel Tel Aviv, who you can imagine the left-leaning club from Tel Aviv has a reputation of being elitist, Ashkenaz, and our friends at Beit Sha'an have, in essence, thrown the match for Beitar. This causes outrage and shame from some people. It is seen as a betrayal of ethic and competition. But what do you think? Does this quote at the top really fit for you? Is this the most shameful spectacle ever seen? Is this somehow acceptable behavior? Have you ever seen something similar of a team kind of throwing it for their opponent, but not necessarily with this grounding underneath it? Sometimes teams will throw a match for their own personal standing. But on this ethnic solidarity, I was hard pressed to think of another example. Yeah, it's a shanda. We play the game to play the game. We don't play the game to throw matches. Um, but this is identity politics. Israel is not made up of a monolith. There are different groups from all over, and so we see kind of what won out here. So, and again, Hapoel Beit Sha'an is working against Hapoel Tel Aviv in order to have Beitar win. A fascinating moment. Okay, we're gonna keep moving forward just because we got a lot to get through. We're gonna look to A couple of years later, 2004, Beit Sachnin winning the 2004 State Cup. Now, the two stadiums on here I just showed to try and give a sense of um, well, economic disparity. The stadium on the right is Sami Ofer in Haifa. This is one of the most beautiful, it's right on the coast, one of the most beautiful places in all of Israel to watch a match. And not to say nothing of Sachnin, which is over here on the left, which this is Maccabi Haifa on one side and Bnei Sachnin on the other. You can make some assumptions about which club has a little more money, which club might be able to outfit themselves in preparation for a big match. Notably interesting, this stadium on the left has been renamed Doha Stadium. Doha Stadium, because although it doesn't look like it in this picture, after this championship win, there was a heavy investment from the Qataris. And they put some money into the club to try and build out stadiums and build out support. Still not a big stadium, but there's foreign money that is now included in Bnei Sachnin. Bnei Sachnin is a club from Sachnin, which is a lower Galilee town, and the club it's a split. It's half, it's half Jews, it's half Israeli Arabs, a couple foreign players in there as well. And they went all the way through the State Cup in 2004 to win. This could be compared to in 2004, in the heat of the Second Intifada. This could be compared to I saw someone write, Grant Wall, a fantastic football writer who recently passed away, said this could be compared to a historically black college winning the NCAA tournament in the middle of the civil rights movement. They came from absolutely nowhere. Their biggest victory in their run to the cup was probably their 4-3 penalty win over Maccabi Tel Aviv after a 1-1 draw. But on the next slide, we're gonna watch a little video because somebody made a documentary called After the Cup. So let's take a look at that and hopefully the video plays. Whoops. Did it not play? There we go. Oh, almost. While we are figuring out whether or not we're going to be able to play this video, I will tell you the Qatari money. I didn't have the time to really dive in. I think it's probably a mixed bag to say the least, of how that's being good. All right, let's try this out. I heard it for a second. There we go.
If we have a chance to show to everybody how people can live together, we're going to take the chance.
This is history for Sachnin, and I hope this is like the beginning of peace.
It was a surprise for everyone. If we don't survive, it's finished.
Without Sachnin, I think we have nothing in our country to give a push to good relationship between the Jewish and the Arabic.
In our team, we are together, we are family, and we play with our heart and with our neshama, so, yes.
I think it's the first time in the history of this country that the Arabic inside Israel feel that they are important. I hope for them that we open a window for a better life.
בני סכנין שינו את היחס בין יהודים לערבים במדינת ישראל.
We don't have anything here in Sakhnin. Nothing, just football.
שהיא מייצגת 2 מיליון ערבים ויהודים כאחד, זה אתם.
Okay, thank you. It appears that the video is not going. I did not test out could these videos play from Zoom, just in my Google Slides. But
So, Rabbi, that didn't come through for you?
we heard the audio, but the video was frozen, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was playing on
No,
my
it's,
end.
you know, we'll make it work. But maybe you heard some stuff in there. This is a club that, you know, came from nowhere to win the cup. It is a club that has Israelis and Arabs playing together side by side. And so you can imagine that the result and the response from the nation was mixed. These were darlings to some and shandas to others. And you could hear people say, like, this is our hope. This is could be peace. If we can show that people can come together and play as a team and win, maybe this is like a spark to the peace movement. You heard some kids, there's video of Sakhnin, which is not the wealthiest place in the country. I'm saying this is all we have. We have football. This is what brings us together. This is our identity. And so we have that example of opportunity and challenge from Bnei Sakhnin. Now, the captain of Bnei, and also like worth noting, like just amazing, like this club from the Lower Galilee, because of this win, ends up competing in Europe for the UEFA Cup. After this win, they end up playing Newcastle United from England. Like this is life-changing for the players. This is life-changing for the town. They were not able to host some of their great European games because their stadium's too small, and it was security concerns. So there was no way that you know, a club like Newcastle United would have come in to Sakhnin. When this happens, a lot of times matches get played in Tel Aviv instead. So speaking of that, Amy, I'm going to take back over and share my slides. I think actually, no, I'm not. They disappeared on me. If you could pop the next slide up. So speaking of, we're gonna take a look at the next year. Abba Swan and Walid Badir. These names are two players from who were on the Israeli national team. Now, the next year in 2005, we have World Cup qualifying. And in March 2005, each of these two men score a crucial late game-tying goal that keeps the Israeli national team alive. Swan scores against Ireland, Badir scores against France. This is major stuff. These are the biggest goals in Israeli soccer history. You can imagine what it would mean to Israel to, you know, continue on in World Cup play. They are simultaneously celebrated as national heroes, but also face racism left and right. There are chants saying, "You do not represent us," an anti-Arab sentiment. And then there's this balance in the crowd where people are shouting, "No Arabs, no terrorism." And the response is, well, no Arabs, no goals, no Arabs, no World Cup. Worth noting here that if you notice that Israel is playing European clubs. At first, I thought this when I grew up that like, oh, Israel tries to have a European identity, just like we talked about Max Nordau, and they're trying to affiliate over in Europe rather than in Asia. That is incorrect. Israel was expelled from the Asian Football Conference in 1974. due to pressure from Arab and Muslim nations who did not want them playing there. I'm going to read a little bit from this Grant Wall article, Stars of David, to try and capture this moment. I had some video on the next page from Abba Swan, but it's bad video to begin with. But here's what Wall had to say. For one glorious instant, all the divisive voices were silent. The Jewish extremists in Jerusalem who'd unfurled a banner reading Abbas Sawan, you don't represent us. The Islamic extremists on Al Jazeera who'd accused him of collaborating with the Zionist enemy. All of those lip readers, Arabs and Jews alike, who stare at his mouth like detectives. Aha! During the national anthem, he refuses to sing. The greatest moment of my life, proclaimed Sawan of his role in the team's comeback, which he celebrated literally by wrapping himself in the Star of David flag. Then, 4 nights later, can you believe it? An Arab saved Israel again. This time, the team's other prominent Muslim, a 31-year-old midfielder, Walid Badir, headed home the equalizer in the dying minutes to salvage a 1-1 tie against mighty France, and the celebrations raged once more. Imagine Israel, tiny Israel, undefeated in 7 qualifying games, on the brink of reaching its first World Cup in 36 years, this one to be held in Germany, the most symbolic of venues. And two of the men are Arabs who've heard racist taunts their entire careers. My biggest dream is to get to the World Cup. After that, I don't know if there will be anything left to dream about. During the violence of the Second Intifada, the Palestinian uprising that began in 2000 that lasted for 5 years, right-wing Israeli nationalists had an exclusionary slogan for the country's 1.2 million Arab citizens. Palestinians who make up nearly 1/5 of the population. No Arabs, no terrorism. In the days after Sawan and Badir saved Israel, a new chant echoed, no Arabs, no World Cup. You can imagine that there is a lot at stake in this moment. I'm going to keep going quickly just so we can get through some things. We're going to skip that video. Yeah, it's shot again, right? Okay. Jumping to this year, to today. This is the scene after Maccabi Tel Aviv in Amsterdam earlier this year, November of 2024. You might have heard this story. You might have seen the headlines coming out, which were all over the place, of what happened after a match where Maccabi Tel Aviv was competing against Ajax, and it was mixed reports, depending on who you asked and what you read. This is a toxic cocktail of hooliganism, anti-Semitism, and anger over the war in Gaza. The Israelis who were in the crowd who had traveled to Amsterdam chanted anti-racist slogans, tore down Palestinian flags, and ignored a moment of silence during the match for the recent victims of a Spanish flood. Spain had tried to distance itself from Israel in response to the war in Gaza. And also, there were numerous assaults as violent hit-and-runs attacks on Israeli supporters. This moment in our story is intensified because it's Israel. This is a story that I think we might be relating to a lot in these days. A story about soccer hooligans who show up for a big international match and get rowdy and violent and clash is, for better or worse, nothing new. This is not a unique experience that brought on by the Israelis or the Dutch, but because of the situation, because it is Israel, because we are in the backdrop of this war, we see a different side of the story. We have to understand it in different ways. And so now you have, Joe Biden, who is weighing in on what's going on. Now you have people calling for pogroms on one side and calling the Israels on the other side as, this incredibly violent group. And notable, what is the team involved from Israel? Maccabi Tel Aviv. As we said in the beginning, smack in the middle. It's not the right, it's not the lefties, it's the middle. And we said they could be that weather vane. You could see where the country was heading, how things were faring by the political leanings of a team like Maccabi. And they came to Ajax and they had their takes. Somebody, I saw a quote that said, "Nobody likes us anyway. Everybody hates us. So what do we have to play nice for?" So this was this violence, and I take that moment of saying that if you saw these stories coming out, and the first headline you saw was that these were pogroms, where the Israelis were being hunted down in the streets, you have to take a step back from that. And understanding a little bit about the game and understanding a little bit about the culture of international football leads you to say, wait a minute, is that the full story? There's no way that there's one innocent side and one fully guilty side in this conflict. Quoting Buffalo Springfield at the top, nobody's right if everybody's wrong. I don't think we're going to be able to we can try. The last two things I had are videos. The next one, we can give it a shot, but I'll pause here for any questions before I go forward. I'd love to show this video, but I don't have confidence it's going to work. Let's try it for a second, Amy, and if the video freezes, then we'll not watch it, but I'll explain it.
Oh no, it's for there. Hold on, the free kick there, Jerry. Well, the Brazilian
Okay,
team.
can you pause the audio, please? I apologize. Okay, I'll tell the story. This is a short film called Offside. Oh, good on you, Jenny. Yeah, this is a fascinating film. If I have my ability to multitask, I will find the clip and put it in the chat here. But this is a film called Offside. It starts with two Israeli soldiers who are walking, thank you, on the Jerusalem Film Council, who are walking a security fence, a security border with a little handheld radio. And what they're trying to get on their little handheld radio is the World Cup final from 1994 between Brazil and Italy. Now, I'm not sure the exact details are the same. I could not find what I wanted from the end of that match, but that match famously ends in a 0-0 tie before penalty kicks. It is to the day the only World Cup final that ends 0-0 before we go to kicks. They are trying to get a hold. The signal is shaky. They're holding up their radio, trying to find a reception, and they come across two Palestinian men, also with guns. And at this moment, they all have their guns pointed at each other as the match is reaching its conclusion. There's tension building. The radio is coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And at some point, with everybody's guns holding, the Palestinian men turn to the Israelis and kind of give them the nudge of like, you can break up this war to get the radio back on. You can break up this moment of fighting so we can hear the end of the match. And the Israeli kicks his radio and they get it back on. And there's a goal. There's a goal. And in the moment of excitement, the radio erupts. Oh, score! Shots are fired. And all four men open fire on each other. And all four men fall to the ground. And after they've all fallen to the ground and their guns have gone silent, the radio comes back on. The goal's been called back. It was an offside penalty. It's a beautiful, troubling film of what almost could have been, of these men standing there and celebrating, together for Italy and Brazil, but falling short. There's an offside. There's a reason that a line has been crossed and we have to pull it back. It's a really challenging moment. It's a great film. And I will put the link in the chat. I highly recommend, and sorry that I semi-spoiled it for you if you were going to watch it fresh, but you should watch it if you get the chance. But I didn't want to end on that note. The other video I had to end was a oh, what if I did this? We're not going to do it now. The other thing I wanted to, because I wanted to end on hope, which is a very difficult thing in this moment. But the last piece I had was from the Shimon Peres Peace Institute and their Twinned Peace Sports Program. This is a program that was originally in Dorot, which is down south, very close to the border in Gaza, that very simply brought together, but not simply at all, brought together Israeli kids, Palestinian kids to play soccer together, to be on the same pitch together, to learn how to work as a team together, to figure out how to coexist using sport as that vehicle. The video I found of them was 2018. I've been trying to see the Perez Institute is still in existence, going strong. I don't know how the Twinned Peace program is going, but it's also not isolated. There are programs like that all over the country. And Perez himself shared this quote. When you are on the football pitch, you are a team player, not a Muslim, Jew, or Christian. Sports knows no boundaries and sees no culture or religion. Sport is an international language that unites us all, which I think is a beautiful message, but also we might call it a little colorblind here. You are yourself when you step onto the pitch. Abbas Swan didn't step onto the field as just member of the Israeli national team. He stepped on as an Israeli Arab. You bring yourself there, but we hope it is a place where you can be seen and celebrated as your full and authentic self. But in the realities of the state, we can see the challenges there. And that's why we have to start with our kids. It's the most simple and pure and authentic thing for kids to pick up a ball and start kicking it around wherever they possibly can and try to get the goal. And it's as we grow that can deteriorate, whether we have to choose sides or, build fighting. So we start young. We start with hope there. I'm sorry I didn't have the video to share, and time flies in these sessions, so I'm gonna end there momentarily. But just to see if there's any follow-up questions, there is still pressure to keep Israel out of the World Cup, out of some other spaces, but there's also hope to bring in. So we talked about Qatar a little while ago. Israel, while making some new peace deals in the region, some people wonder, is this a way back to the AFC, to the Asian Football Conference? And I, for myself, can't quite imagine what it would look like for Israel to be playing international friendlies in some of their neighboring countries and vice versa. I just don't see it at this moment. But it's bold to dream, and there's perhaps a hope. There you go. The leading scorer in the MLS is currently Ty Barabau from Eilat. Ellen, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I did nod off a little bit during the middle, so I don't know if I missed something, but did you talk about women's soccer in Israel?
I didn't talk about women's soccer in this one, but the women's movement is I don't have enough, but I've seen that, like in America, like across the world, there is a growing, becoming more popular movement. There's also some Israeli representation in women's soccer here in the States, but I didn't have enough bandwidth to dive into that. That would be a great follow-up. Thank you. Anything else? Any thoughts? Um, it's a complicated place, and sports fans amongst us are quick to say it's more than just a game, and we really see that when we're looking at Israel. It's such a small place. Everything is so packed in. Every single event is a microcosm of the entire nation, and we certainly see that on the pitch. But please do watch that offside video. It's wonderful. The video I couldn't show from Sakhnin is called After the Cup, that looks at their challenge in the year after winning the cup. And there's lots of amazing stories. Didn't have time to go into Kiryat Shmona, who won the cup in 2012 as a small town on the Lebanese border, with a stadium smaller than that Doha Sakhnin stadium, and what it does for a team to win economically, to pump money back into a city that is war-torn. It sits between Lebanon and Syria. But I do want to thank you. I did want to end with that hope that the children are our future. And in that way, we'll be segueing shortly to Amy Bulletin, who will be leading our next session at 6. But I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of their Shavuot. Hag Sameach. If you have any questions for me, these conversations, of course, are fun on Zoom, but if we can expand and go into extra time, I'd love to find a way. Hag Sameach, everyone.